Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero podcast, the show where I cover the least in the best way possible. I'm your host, Jason Wells. Today is Wednesday, July 16th. A couple more weeks until we get some preseason games. Training camps are starting this week. And I'm also a few more weeks until I move across the country, until I go to Fredericton. Very exciting for that. But this episode officially wraps up the Hall of Very Good, ending it off with quarterbacks, head coaches, and then our two senior inductions. I'm not going to go over all the nominees for that because there's a lot of them. And a lot of them, I have no idea who they are. I'll just flat out say that. So we'll have our two senior candidates, talk about those guys, and obviously start off with the NFL weekly update. We got some news flowing in. We got some extensions, some other things happening, so should be a pretty decent episode. I guess let's just get into it, because I have to get to softball in roughly an hour. So going to be less than an hour, I can guarantee that. So starting off with the Jets with two big extensions. Sauce Gardner gets a 4-year, $120.4 million deal, making him the highest paid corner in league history, and it's absolutely deserved. Then on the other hand, Garrett Wilson, 4-year extension, $130 million, 90 of that guaranteed. Another contract absolutely deserved, getting paid less than DK Metcalf. So I think that's an absolute win, just given whatever the markets are. But let's start off with Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner coming out of Cincinnati was one of my favorite prospects in that class. Like, obviously, it was him and Stingley, who's corner one, and the fact that Stingley had the reputation, that national champion winning season when he was a true freshman, everyone knew Derek Stingley's that guy. And he is that guy. He's one of the best corners in the league. But Sauce was at Cincinnati, and there was those couple years of Cincinnati when they had Desmond Ridder and, again, Sauce Gardner, and who else was there? They had another guy who ended up being a corner somewhere. Kobe Bryant? I think Kobe Bryant was a corner for them. Not that Kobe Bryant, obviously, but has just, again, last year was his first down year. He was still good, obviously, but the first few years he was one of the best corners in the league, all pro, blah, blah, blah. But Aaron Glenn now coming in and giving Sauce and Garrett Wilson both these extensions are basically being I have confidence, you guys. I want you here for the long haul. I think it's a very good move by the Jets to get both of these deals done. I'm very interested to see, again, I said Sauce had a down year, but that's, again, they fire Robert Saleh, they got a bunch of injuries, the defense just fell off once they did fire Saleh, and I just expect it to be better this year. Again, we'll see, first-year head coach, lots of new things, and I'm sure language and verbiage, whatever, but I do expect a big rebound season from Sauce. Garrett Wilson, on the other hand, obviously, I saw people be you're paying $30 million for a receiver to get 1,100 yards and 6 TDs. Ha, 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 ha. He's played with Zach Wilson. I mean, fuck, whoever would have been there taking over from Zach Wilson, too. Joe Flacco when he was bad for the Jets. Trevor Siemian, I think, Tim Boyle. Bad QBs. And then, obviously, the corpse of Aaron Rodgers. Not great. He also had to compete with Devontae Adams, who we all know that's Aaron Rodgers' favorite target ever. So, yeah, he hasn't had that big breakout season, but I still believe that Garrett Wilson can be a top 5 receiver in this league. I think he's already a fringe top 10. Don't look at stats to be he's not good. That's box score watching. Garrett Wilson is a very, very good wide receiver. With that being said, Justin Fields is throwing him the ball this year. That's not much better. Again, I'll talk about more of the Jets' offense in a few weeks because I'm bullish on the Jets' offense. I should say that anyways. But yeah, good for the Jets to get both of those young guys locked up, potential cornerstone pieces for this franchise. So Good for the Jets. Another big extension here. Trey Smith of the Chiefs gets a 4-year, $94 million deal, 70 of that guaranteed, making him the highest paid guard in league history. Another one of these absolutely deserved. There's a reason they traded Joe Tooney away, is so they could pay Trey Smith. And Trey Smith, another one of like my guys from that 2022 draft, I believe, too. Yeah, like he was just an ass kicker. And he had some injuries in college, and that's why he fell to, I think, the 6th round. But he's an ass kicker, he's a mover, and he's just proven it every day since he's got to the NFL. I'm pretty sure he's been a starter with the Chiefs since basically day one his rookie season. Absolutely deserved. Good for the Chiefs to keep him in-house, obviously, and not just playing on that franchise tag. Not a whole lot else I can really talk about offensive line play, so shout out to those three guys getting their bags. We have a retirement here. Ndamukong Suh officially retires from the NFL. Future Hall of Very Good candidate, I can just say that right now. Incredible career, like truly incredible career. Was the second overall pick in the 2010 draft coming out of Nebraska. And some people argue his last season at Nebraska, he should have won the Heisman over, I think it was Sam Bradford that year, who ended up going first overall. Potato, tomato, doesn't really matter to me. But 13-year career, spent it with the Lions, then the Dolphins, the Eagles, the Bucks. I think those are the 4 teams that he played for. Defensive Rookie of the Year, 3-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, and a Super Bowl champion with the Bucks to end his career. He played with such a mean streak. Like, he was such a fun player to watch just because you didn't know what he was going to do next. And I tried to find the numbers and didn't have a lot of time at work to do a lot of real, like, deep diving into, like, again, like notes like this. But I'm pretty sure he's the most fined player in NFL history by, like, quite a wide margin. Like, he got fined $100,000 for, like, stomping on a person. Like, again, multiple suspensions and fines and, like, don't do that again in Ndamukong. Like, it didn't matter. He played with such a mean streak. He was such a nasty player. I loved it. I loved him when he was with the Lions. I loved him when he was with Miami. Again, incredible career. Maybe a Hall of Famer at one point, but again, definitely going to be in the Hall of Very Good. Maybe next year, we'll see, because it is a Democratic vote, but we can keep going. It was announced Tristan Wirfs went under arthroscopic knee surgery and is expected to miss the first couple games of the season. Again, that's not really a concrete timetable, but will miss the first few games. And again, because I didn't have a lot of time today at work, when usually I do my notes and stuff like that, but the Bucks, I know in the first 2 weeks they play the Texans in week 2. I don't know who they open their season with, so that is what I'm checking right now. Okay, so they open the season against the Falcons, who new vaunted pass rush, I guess, with drafting James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker, and then they bring in Leonard Floyd. Again, we'll see what that looks like, but, like, the Bucks should feel fairly comfortable in that matchup. Then they play the Texans in week 2. And if you've heard me this offseason, if you've heard me talk about the Texans, I think their defense is going to be special. And Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter off those edges, whoever's going in, I don't know who the Bucks' backup left tackle is, won't be good. And then they play the Jets, who, again, I'm expecting a better version of the Jets' defense than what we got from last year. And then the Eagles in week 4, and hopefully Wirfs is back for that, because, again, that's going to be another very tough matchup. But sucks for the Bucks, obviously. I don't think it affects anything long-term for them. I still think that they're easily the favorites to win that division. So we'll keep going here. Browns rookie Quinshon Judkins arrested for domestic violence. Yeah, back-to-back off seasons where a Browns second-round pick has been arrested for domestic violence. Shout out to Andrew Berry, I guess. You've really put in the homework. It's such a bad story. Like, it really is. not a hard thing to just not put hands on anyone, let alone a woman, your wife, your girlfriend, doesn't matter. And people are like online being like, oh, well, like charges weren't like pressed, so nothing ended up happening. Clearly, it's like that's not how it works. That's never how it works. Again, he could have settled. He could have whatever been like, here's $20,000, like go away. And for some people, that's enough, and it is what it is. And I don't blame whoever for taking that money. I don't know what the full story is, but he got a mugshot. He was in handcuffs. He was in jail. Chances are he did something pretty fucked. So, shout out to the Browns for just, again, being a poorly run organization like none other. It's unbelievable where, again, I think the Dolphins this century are like the second, third worst team in the NFL. But like, it's like the Dolphins at like 2 or 3, and then like the Browns just off a cliff at the bottom. Like no one's even close to being as bad as the Browns, which is insane to say. I mean, it's not insane to say, but like they're fucking terrible. Bears GM Ryan Poles gets an extension till 2029, so that puts him on the same timetable as new head coach Ben Johnson. Again, never a bad thing for your head coach and GM to both be in step, both being on the same timetable instead of like, oh, well, Ben Johnson wants the power and he'll find his own GM, and then that GM's like, well, Ben Johnson's again, power struggles aren't good. It seems like they're on the same page, and I think that Ryan Poles does kind of get the short end of the stick. Like, he has not, again, the Bears have not been a good team under his watch, but I don't think that's necessarily because of him. Like, he's drafted some good players. He's drafted Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, Braxton Jones, Darnell Wright, Gervon Dexter, Tyreek Stevenson, Caleb Williams, Roma Dunze, Torrey Taylor, and then this year with Colson Loveland and Luther Burden, which I guess we're not sure about those last two guys yet, but the rest of those guys I named are like starters and like good starters. And those aren't all obviously first round picks. So he's done his job there. He's traded for Montez Sweat, Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson, DJ Moore. Those moves have all looked pretty good. And then he signed guys like TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. Like, he's put together a good roster. Just Matt Eberflus could not do anything with that roster except for run the defense. So I'm expecting big things for the Bears this year. People were freaking out about the extension. And again, good to have your GM and head coach on the same timetable. We can keep going here. Najee Harris. I don't know if this has made news to your ears. Why did I say it like that? Jesus Christ. But yeah, Najee Harris was a part of a fireworks accident, which thankfully for him only left him with like some superficial like facial injuries, which even that is just scary. But apparently some people that he was with were in like critical care in the hospital and lost multiple fingers, blah blah blah, a la JPP, I guess. Don't fuck around with fireworks. I don't know why that's such like a, every year this seems to be like a thing that people are for some reason holding fire. Again, I don't know what the real situation is. I don't know how it happened, how it got to that point, but fireworks aren't something to be messed with, and people love to mess with them. Like, they're a literal explosive. So happy that Najee Harris is okay. Still, like, he came into a press conference wearing an eye patch. So clearly, like, the damage was bad enough for him to wear an eye patch. Obviously, probably scratched his cornea or, I don't know. What are you doing, Lucy? Go lie down. Hi. Boop. Okay. Next note up here. Chargers also got new uniforms. If you miss Color Rush jerseys, don't worry. The Chargers' new jerseys are for you. Yellow jersey, yellow pants. They look like bananas. They might look like the Savannah bananas, some may say. I don't know why they felt the need to do this. Like, the Chargers have some of the best uniforms in the NFL. Like, they're old jerseys, they're new jerseys, they're alternates. Like, every Chargers jersey is basically incredible. And then they put out these, like, yellow ones, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing? again, I'm not a big fan of them. I haven't seen a lot of positive reaction about these new jerseys, but yeah, Chargers doing their best Savannah Banana impression. And then final note here, Teddy Bridgewater has been suspended from Miami Northwestern High School for... How did they put it in the article? It was something bullshit, and I am going to actually find how Yahoo worded the article also. Yahoo just not good at their job, let's just be clear. For giving impermissible benefits to his players. And you want to know what he did? He paid out of pocket for his training camps, which were around $14,000. Paid for matching uniforms and helmets, which was $9,500. Paid for pregame meals every single week, $2,200 every single week. Recovery, $1,300 every single week. Ubers, $700 a week, and field paint, $300 a week. All of that out of his own pocket, and nope, that's not allowed. You can't feed these young kids before games. How dare you, Teddy Bridgewater? How dare you provide them transportation so they can get safely home? It's unbelievable. I think he should go to prison. This should be a life sentence. We should never hear the name Teddy Bridgewater again. It's fucking ridiculous. I don't know what it is with high school. Like, and first of all, he's not even a coach. Like, he gets suspended. He's a volunteer. Like, he is volunteering his time and personally, like, helping this team out. It's complete bullshit. Again, high school athletics in the States are very weird. I mean, especially, like, the way that, like, college is looking right now, too, and how that's going. It's unbelievable. Like, Teddy Bridgewater, by all accounts, is one of the nicest human beings that the NFL has seen, and won his alma mater last year before, like, signing as the Lions as a backup, won them their state championship, and I guess some booster for another school or some other school got pissed and was like, he can't be doing that. He can't be upgrading his team's uniforms and facilities. Why can't he? I don't know. Again, high school sports are stupid. High school U.S. sports are incredibly stupid and too many rules, and I don't really get it, but that is the NFL Weekly Update. Let's end the Hall of Very Good right here. So we'll start off with the quarterbacks, because I have them listed off first. So the nominees are Carson Palmer, Phillip Rivers, Steve McNair, Joe Flacco, Alex Smith, Andy Dalton, and Matt Hasselbeck. So starting off with Carson Palmer, he was the first overall pick by the Bengals in the 2003 draft. It was up and down for Carson Palmer to, like, start his career. Few injuries, but he was also a part of some very good offenses with Chad Ochocinco, TJ Houshmandzadeh. I want to say Ben Jarvis Green Ellis was running the football, but I'll just say that Ben Jarvis Green Ellis was running the football, because why not? Like, those were some fun Cincy offenses. Then he goes to the Raiders, and the Raiders was an absolute disaster. Like most Raiders teams in the early 2000s, and I mean just Raiders teams this century, let's just be real, was a disaster. But again, goes over to Arizona, hooks up with Bruce Arians and Larry Fitzgerald, and those were some very fun Cardinals teams. Larry Fitzgerald, David Johnson. They brought in CJ 2K for a little bit. Who else was catching passes from Carson Palmer? Was Zach Ertz there at that time? No, maybe he was there. Either way, Carson Palmer, very good career. Some might say he might not have lived up to that first overall billing. Fuck him. Was a second-team All-Pro once, three-time Pro Bowler. Led the league in touchdowns and percentage and completion percentage in 2005, and finishes his career with 46,247 yards, which is 15th all-time, 294 passing TDs, which is 15th all-time, and then 62.5 completion percentage, which is 45th all-time. Those are good numbers. And I guess we're in an inflated era right now, and blah, 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 doesn't matter. Those are good numbers regardless. And a little bit of an interesting tidbit about Carson Palmer. He's the first QB ever to have 4,000 plus yards with 3 different teams. I didn't really fact check that to make sure that was good. I'm trusting Google AI here. But like quickly going over in my head, that makes sense to me that no other QB has done that. I was trying to think of like somewhat high profile QBs who have even played for 3 teams, and obviously there's not a ton of them. So that's Carson Palmer. Next guy up here, it is Phillip Rivers, 4th overall pick by the Chargers in that 2004 draft. I guess technically he was taken by the Giants and then traded to the Chargers. So first fuck up. I mean, there's probably been a couple fuck ups on the show. Let's be real here. 8-time Pro Bowler, comeback player of the year in 2013, yards leader in 2010, TD and passer rating leader in 2008, and completion percentage leader in 2013. The shocking thing about those numbers that I just read is Phillip Rivers never an All-Pro. Like Carson Palmer was an All-Pro at one point. Phillip Rivers never an All-Pro. And I guess, yeah, he had some very, very tough competition. But the fact that he never made an All-Pro is, again, kind of crazy to me because Phillip Rivers was a great quarterback, clearly, and finishes his career with 63,440 yards, was the 6th all-time, 421 passing touchdowns, 6th all-time, and then 64.9% completion percentage, which is 21st all-time. 17-year career. We don't really want to remember that last one with the Colts, but he was still fine with the Colts. Like, I think, again, in his 17-year career, Phillip Rivers never had a bad season. And, like, not even, like obviously that Colts season, it was old man Phillip Rivers, but he was still, like, a good, capable quarterback. Which I think a lot of QBs towards the end of their career don't really have that. So, again, Phillip Rivers, just the key of consistency for almost 2 decades. And something crazy that I didn't really know, he never missed a game due to injury. 252 consecutive games played by Phillip Rivers, and that's even with, he tore his ACL in a playoff game, and he played on that torn ACL. He's a tough son of the bitch. He has a million kids. Just like a funny, like, again, haven't seen many, like, interviews or, like, things where, like, people really get Phillip Rivers, like, out of his shell, but just, like, the mic'd up clips of him shit-talking, and he doesn't swear, so it's even funnier. Phillip Rivers was a character, played on some very good Chargers teams, just underperformed by a lot, but that's Phillip Rivers. Next guy up here, we have Steve McNair, another, I think a first-time nominee. Also, Phillip Rivers, first-time nominee, Carson Palmer, 2-time nominee. Steve McNair was the 3rd overall pick by the Houston/Tennessee Oilers/Titans. Yes, a little confusing. Was the 2003 co-MVP with Peyton Manning, 3-time Pro Bowler, 1-time second-team All-Pro, passer rating leader in 2003 as well. And speaking of just that MVP in general, he was the first black quarterback to win an NFL MVP. That's great. Again, it's a big, big accomplishment just winning an MVP in general. But, yeah, Steve McNair was a part of some very good Titans. Yeah, I think they would have been the Titans team when they made it to that Super Bowl where they ended up losing, like, literally on the 1-yard line to that Rams team. But, like, Steve McNair was kind of like that first hybrid-ish quarterback, like a Josh Allen. He did finish with, I have it down, 3,590 rush yards for his career and 38 rushing touchdowns, which, like, for those days, that's pretty damn good. There weren't a ton of, like, super rushing quarterbacks. And then there was, like, a Michael Vick who's, like, he's a rushing quarterback. Where Steve McNair, he can let his arm go. Again, kind of like Josh Allen. Finishes his career with 31,304 yards, which is 54th all-time. 174 passing TDs, 70th all-time. And then a 60.1 completion percentage, which is also 70th all-time. And again, the 3,500 rushing yards, another 38 rushing TDs, 14-year career. And if you know the story of Steve McNair, ended up getting murdered by his mistress I don't think he was playing at that point. He ended his career with the Ravens in 06, 07, 06 and then 07. And then they would have drafted Joe Flacco. And maybe they drafted Joe Flacco because Steve McNair wasn't there anymore. Again, didn't have a ton of time to research today, but that's Steve McNair. And speaking of Joe Flacco, the 18th overall pick by the Baltimore Ravens in 2008. Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, 2023 Comeback Player of the Year, and tied the record for most touchdowns in a single postseason with 11. That's tied with Joe Montana. But not a single Pro Bowl. Which, again, I'm shocked that Phillip Rivers doesn't have any All-Pros. I am absolutely shocked that Joe Flacco doesn't have a single Pro Bowl. Tyler Huntley has a Pro Bowl. Mac Jones has a Pro Bowl. Joe Flacco doesn't have a Pro Bowl. Yeah. Crazy. Doesn't make a ton of sense, but that run that Joe Flacco went on to win that Super Bowl was one of the most impressive stretches of football that I can remember. Like, I don't even want to say that they dominated, because they didn't. But I think that, I'm trying to remember how it went, because he must have played in 4 games too. I don't remember who they played in the wild card, and then I think they beat the Patriots, beat the Broncos, and then beat the Niners in the Super Bowl in the Har Bowl. Yeah, electric Super postseason run for him there. Got a hefty payday. Again, Joe Flacco is just a good, solid QB who just got hot at the right moment. I might argue that if his last name was Manning, maybe people would talk about him like a future Hall of Famer. But I digress, and we'll keep going here. Actually, do I have anything? Actually, I didn't even finish Joe Flacco. 45,697 yards, which is 18th all-time. 257 passing TDs, which is 22nd all-time, and 61.7 completion percentage, which is 53rd all-time. And these numbers are still going, because I think he's probably going to be the Browns' Week 1 starter, which is absolutely nuts. He's going into his 18th season, and I guess we have to talk about that 2023 Comeback Player of the Year, where that second half of the season, he was lighting it up. The Browns were looking good. They were having fun. But he won that Comeback Player of the Year over Damar Hamlin, who literally died on the field and then came back to play. The criteria for Comeback Player of the Year is absolutely fucked. But, yeah, it's absolutely fucked. But that's Joe Flacco. Next nominee up here is Alex Smith, another 2-time nominee, was the first overall pick by the 49ers in the 2005 NFL Draft. And it was a rough start for those Niners teams. I mean, when you're picked first overall, usually you're not that good, and they weren't good for a while. It wasn't until the end of kind of his 49ers tenure where it's like, okay, Alex Smith might be like a real, like, competent, like, good starter. Like, it took him, like, I think, like 4 years to really kind of get into the swing of things. 3-time Pro Bowler, passer rating leader in 2017, Comeback Player of the Year in 2020. I'll talk about a little bit about that more soon. But then, yeah, obviously after the Niners, he links up with Andy Reid and the Chiefs, and that's where he really did have the best seasons of his career. A couple playoff wins, didn't really amount to a ton, unfortunately, and then Pat Mahomes was right there after he led the league in passer rating, and we all know the rest of that story. Then he goes to the Washington football team, Commanders, Redskins, whatever you want to call it, and almost died. He had a horrific leg injury where just multiple breaks in his leg, tore a bunch of ligaments, like nasty, and he almost died because of it. Went into, again, sepsis, shock, whatever, almost had his leg amputated, and then, again, managed to come back, I think 2 years later, to play. It was only a handful of games, but again, if you almost die, I guess unless you're Damar Hamlin, you should win this award. The fact he was able to come back at all, and then that did end up being his final season in the league. But great career for Alex Smith. Finishes with 35,650 yards, which is 31st all-time, 199 TDs, 52nd all-time, and then 62.6 completion percentage, which is 43rd all-time. 16-year career. Next guy up here, it is Andy Dalton, a second-round pick by the Cincinnati Bengals in the 2011 draft. heading into his 15th NFL season now, 3-time Pro Bowler. And honestly, there's not a ton to really say about Andy Dalton. Again, those Bengals teams that he was on to start his career, they were fun. Him, AJ Green, Giovanni Bernard, Jeremy Hill, decent offensive line with Andrew Whitworth, and I think it's Andre Smith was their other tackle. I'm trying to think if there was another weapon that he was throwing to. Oh, he had the Marvins. No, actually, he just had one Marvin. He had Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu, though. Tyler Eifert, that's a guy who I haven't thought of in a while, but yeah, Andy Dalton was just a good, consistent player who, again, still going and now has merged into the vet mentor role, which he has done well. And yeah, whenever you if you need Andy Dalton to come in for a game, that first game, maybe 2 games, he'll look pretty good. The offense will work pretty well, and then it just kind of goes downhill because he is old man Andy Dalton at this point. But again, very, very consistent, going into his 15th year in the league. Hell of a player. And finally, last guy here, we have Matt Hasselbeck, the 6th round pick by the Green Bay Packers in 1998, but managed to have a 18-year career. Obviously, his high points were with the Seattle Seahawks. Trying to remember. I think it was. Actually, this makes sense because we're going to talk about his coach very shortly. But I think that Mike Holmgren would have been the coach for the Packers in '98, so he would have drafted him. And then when he became the Seahawks coach, I'm sure that that's when he brought over Matt Hasselbeck to start for his team. But yeah, those Seattle days. I mean, they made it to a Super Bowl. They lost to that Steelers team where that Steelers defense was absolutely nuts. But yeah, he was, again, 3-time Pro Bowler, all with the Seahawks, finishes his career with 36,638 yards, 30th all-time, 212 passing TDs, 44th all-time, and a 60.5 completion percentage, which is 64th all-time. Yeah, the Packers, the Seahawks, then he had some stops with the Titans and the Colts. And when he was 40 years old in his final season in the league in 2015, he won 4 straight games as a starter. That's not 4 straight weeks, just 4 straight games that he started in. He won those 4 at 40 years old, which is, again, absolute. I love that. His final season, he put it all out on the line, and he kind of, again, not a high note as some of these other guys potentially, but going 4-0 when you're 40 years old. Good coincidence? Coincidence isn't the right word. I'm just thinking of the 4-0 and then 40, how it's the same, and coincidence isn't the right word. But I'm not going to think of the right word because it's been a long day. Let's just say that. But yeah, I can kind of say that Matt Hasselbeck was the Andy Dalton, of that generation, of that decade prior, where yeah, he had some few very, very good years, and maybe if the Bengals organization wasn't abysmal, that Andy Dalton and those teams could have went further into the playoffs. But we'll talk about their head coach soon enough, too. But that's Matt Hasselbeck, and the 2 nominees getting inducted into the 2025 class of the Hall of Very Good are Joe Flacco and Phillip Rivers. Joe Flacco also leading the vote there, because part of me was do I just omit Joe Flacco because he's still an active player? But then I went back and I checked. It's no, Joe Flacco got the majority of the votes. Phillip Rivers still in second by a decent margin, but those are your 2 nominees. Congrats to those, or those are your 2 inductees. Congrats to those 2 men. Let's get over to the head coaches now. Your nominees are Marvin Lewis, Jeff Fisher, Mike Shanahan, Ron Rivera, Mike McCarthy, Mike Holmgren. Lots of Mikes. We don't have a lot of Mike coaches in the NFL. We have Mike McDaniel. Is Mike McDaniel the last Mike standing in the head coaching? Mike Vrabel now. Okay, no. Still doing 2. Got 2. That's pretty good. Starting off with Marvin Lewis, though. So started his NFL coaching career with the Steelers as their linebackers coach from 92 to 95. Then was the Ravens defensive coordinator from 96 to 2001, and I don't think I knew that Marvin Lewis was the DC for arguably one of the best defenses of all time, that 2000 Ravens defense. Then he was the Washington assistant head coach and defensive coordinator in 2002. And then from 2003 to 2018, he was the Cincinnati Bengals head coach. Coach of the Year in 2009, and obviously a Super Bowl champ as the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. Again, Marvin Lewis, he had some like high highs. You knew where the floor with his teams were. It's just once they got to the playoffs, and again, this might just be a Bengals issue because they're just a poorly run organization. But unfortunately for Marvin, 0-7 in the playoffs. That's not great for 14 years at one single team, never winning a playoff game. I'd say his leash was maybe just a little too long anyways. But finished his career with 131 wins, which is 29th all-time, 122 losses, and 3 ties. Shout out to Marvin Lewis. Next guy up here, it is Jeff Fisher, player for the Bears for a few short years, those 85 Bears, Super Bowl champion. Then he followed, was it Buddy Ryan? I think it was Buddy Ryan. Followed Buddy Ryan over when he went to the Eagles to be the Eagles DB's coach from 86 to 88. Then he was their defense coordinator from 89 to 90. The Rams defensive coordinator in 91. The Niners DB's coach in 92 and 93. The Oilers DC/interim head coach in 94. And then the Oilers/Titans head coach from 95 to 2010. And then the Rams head coach from 2012 to 2016. Jeff Fisher was a hell of a coach for like a long period of time, and again, towards the end of it, it was good old 8-8 Jeff Fisher. It didn't matter who was on his team, didn't matter how bad they were, how good they were finishing 8-8, they were finishing around 500. But to start his career, and again, like this is Steve McNair's head coach, again, a yard away from winning a Super Bowl. He kept, again, those teams were competitive, they were good, and he finished his career 173 wins, which is 14th all-time, 165 losses, and then 1 tie. Next coach up here, we have Mike Shanahan, Broncos wide receiver coach in 84, Broncos offense coordinator from 1985 to 87, Raiders head coach from 89 to 90, Broncos QB coach in 91, 49ers offense coordinator / QB's coach from 92 to 93, Niners offense coordinator in 94, and then became the Broncos head coach from 1995 to 2008, and then ended his career in Washington from 2010 to 2013. 2-time Super Bowl champ with the Broncos. Obviously, those were both John Elway's Super Bowls. Again, great teams, and he was, I mean, we all know the Shanahan system. It's everywhere in the league, and it's because of Mike. Like, obviously, Kyle Shanahan gets a bunch of credit too, and his coaching tree, but really, it's Mike Shanahan's coaching tree. And again, you see the influence of just literally everywhere of what they did, but he really brought like the outside zone running scheme like to the NFL, and it has just blossomed since. And yeah, like you can just look at like those Washington staffs when he was there. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan, head coach for the Niners, Sean McVay, the Rams head coach, Matt LaFleur, the Packers head coach, Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins head coach, and then Raheem Morris, the Falcons head coach. And that's also not including guys who weren't on that staff but are still like a part of that. Like Kevin O'Connell is a Sean McVay disciple. Zach Taylor, Sean McVay disciple. Like again, it's a long list of current head coaches who have a Shanahan influence under them. And I think that's cool, just legacy-wise, to have what you kind of brought to the league be so prominent like 2 decades later. That's very cool, but finishes with 170 coaching wins, which is 20th all-time, and 138 losses. Next up here, we have Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron, The Bears defensive quality control coach from 97 and 98. Eagles linebackers coach from 99 to 2003. Bears defensive coordinator from 2004 to 2006. Chargers linebackers coach in 2007. Chargers defensive coordinator from 08 to 2010. And then the Panthers head coach from 2011 to 2019. And the Washington head coach from 2020 to 2023. I mean, it's really just those Carolina years which were very, very good. The defenses were awesome. I mean, having Luke Kuechly is just such a big help in general. The Cam Newton, that 2015 year with Cam, was just so special. And two-time Coach of the Year. You don't get a lot of two-time Coach of the Years, especially when it was like 2013 and 2015, like in that short of a span. I think Kevin Stefanski kind of just did that too. But, yeah, two-time Coach of the Year, Ron Rivera. Battled back from cancer too. He's all good. He's all healthy now. But yeah, those Carolina teams were a lot of fun. The Washington teams, not so much. But that's what happens when you just don't have a quarterback. Mike McCarthy, the next guy up here, Chiefs offense quality control coach in 93 and 94. QB's coach for the Chiefs in 95 through 98. Packers QB's coach in 99. Saints offense coordinator from 2000 to 2004, Niners OC in 2005, and then the Packers head coach from 2006 to 2018, and the Cowboys head coach from 2020 to 2024. Super Bowl champion, obviously, with the Packers. And if you've been listening to the show since I've been doing it, you know my beef with Mike McCarthy, where I think a lot of the time, especially in those Packers years, where he was just kind of along for the ride. Where Aaron Rodgers is, again, such a special talent at quarterback at his peak, where I don't think that Mike McCarthy really did a ton to elevate, and it kind of showed again for the Cowboys, where those were some good Cowboys rosters, and obviously Dak isn't Aaron, but they had some great offensive lines, some great run games, some great weapons, some very good players on, like, they had things, and it was just always a disappointment. Always a disappointing end of the season, at least in my opinion anyways. But that's not to discredit, I mean, I guess it's kind of to discredit Mike McCarthy, but he had a great coaching career, and it still might not be done. I'm pretty sure it is done. Like, if he didn't get a job this cycle, like, why would he get one in the next cycle? I digress, though. Finishes with 174 coaching wins, which is 13th all-time, 112 losses, 2 ties. Again, very good coaching record. Very good coach. I think that's all I can say. And then final guy up here, it is Mike Holmgren. Started off his NFL coaching career with the 49ers as their quarterbacks coach from 86 to 88. Was their offensive coordinator and QB's coach from 89 to 91. Then was the Packers head coach from 92 to 98. And the Seahawks head coach from 99 to 2008. So I was right about my Matt Hasselbeck thing, where obviously the Packers had Brett Favre, and they were like, you don't need Matt Hasselbeck. So Mike Holmgren brought him over. They made it to a Super Bowl together. Didn't win it, unfortunately. But Mike Holmgren, still the Super Bowl champ with the Packers, and a 2-time Super Bowl champ as an assistant with the 49ers, of course. 161 wins, which is 21st all-time, and 111 losses. I don't know a lot about Mike Holmgren other than he was kind of the original Andy Reid, and what I mean by that, he was just a fat white guy with a mustache. Yeah. Shout out to Mike Holmgren. And your nominee getting inducted into the 2025 Hall of Very Good is Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron, getting into the Hall of Very Good. I think it's deserved. I mean, even when you talk about like his like former coaching stuff, like he was part of like those really like he was the DC for those like really good Bears defenses with like Urlacher and Briggs, and even those Chargers defenses in like the late thousands. Yeah, I guess it literally would have been the late thousands, where I think they had the number 1 D at some point. I mean, the Chargers had the number 1 D and the number 1 offense, and they still missed the playoffs, which that might be one of my favorite NFL stats. But yeah, congrats to Phillip Rivers, congrats to Joe Flacco, congrats to Ron Rivera, all for making it into the Hall of Very Good this year. And then finally, to end it off, we have our senior nominees, and you might be, it's like, What do you mean senior nominees? So the NFL does this too, where if guys have been waiting and waiting and waiting, and they clearly deserve to get in, but there's always a constant influx of like new talent that are just like, yeah, of course that guy has to get in. Like, sorry, I can't even think of like an old-timey name, but sorry, old-timer, you're going to have to wait another year. And all of a sudden, all of these old-timers started dying. So the NFL was like, let's put in a senior nominee. And I don't think that's the way it actually happened, but whatever. I'm doing it too, and the way I'm doing it, because to be a candidate is you have to play the majority of your career in this century. So this is just basically everybody else who isn't going to make the Hall, but again, should deserve the recognition, and not going to go over the nominees. So your senior offensive inductee is none other than this guy right above my head, Bo Jackson, out of Bessemer, Alabama, the Heisman Trophy winner in 1985. First overall pick by the Bucks in that 86 draft. And we've been over this, of course, but he told the Bucks to go fuck themselves because he ruined his final year of college baseball. And then Al Davis just called him up. He's like, you want to play both? Like, I'm fine with it. Just come play for us after you're done your season. And that's exactly what he did. And it was so great until it wasn't. And obviously that hip injury against the Bengals where, again, we're talking about Bo Jackson just being a freak. He even gets injured in freakish ways, running at top speed. Bengals linebacker gets him from behind, and just the force of the Bengals guy grabbing his leg and Bo still being so powerful running forward, pulled his leg out of his hip socket. They fell. He rolled over on it, and it went back into place, but also got some blood vessels. And when he's like, no, it popped out. And everyone's like, Bo, you're crazy. It's in your socket. It's fine. And no one caught like the damage that it had done from like getting out and then getting put back in until far too late. But again, for a very short time, Bo Jackson was an incredible player. Made the Pro Bowl once, obviously, same year as he made the MLB All-Star Game as well, and averaged 5.4 yards per carry per his career, which is technically 6th all-time. He doesn't meet the minimum requirements, which I think is 750 carries, but I don't give a shit. He is 6th all-time in yards per carry, tied with Jamal Charles, in my opinion anyways. Only played 38 games total in the NFL, but again, one of my favorite players of all time. There's a reason he is directly above me. And then finally, the senior defensive inductee. It is Clay Matthews Jr. And you might be confused. I'm like, wait, didn't you induct Clay Matthews last year? And I did. It's the other Clay Matthews. And no, it's not that other Clay Matthews who also played in the 50s. It's that guy's son, and then the other Clay Matthews is his son. So there's Clay Matthews Sr., who played in the 50s, Clay Matthews Jr., who we'll talk about, and then Clay Matthews III, who we all know from the Packers and his long flowing hair and the head and shoulders and rivalries against Troy Polamalu of who had the best hair. Either way, I digress. So yeah, I had to find out a little bit about Clay Matthews Jr., obviously brother of Hall of Famer Bruce Matthews, offensive lineman, but he was taken 12th overall by the Cleveland Browns in the 1978 NFL Draft. One-time second-team All-Pro, four-time Pro Bowler, combined tackles leader in 78, 79, 81, and 84. He is 9th all-time in combined tackles, and it's hard to see where his total numbers actually end up because, again, NFL wasn't great for tracking things back then, but 9th all-time in combined tackles. He had a 19-year career. Not many guys, at linebacker especially, and especially in that era, in the late 70s, early 80s, where you're killing people. You are putting your body on the line. That was probably the most physical era that the NFL had to deal with, and he played for 19 years. That is just absolutely insane to me, but shout out to Clay Matthews Jr., Clay Matthews II, I don't know, joining his son in the Hall of Very Good, and that'll wrap it up here. This is actually perfect timing. I got a few minutes to chill a little bit, get changed, got to go to softball, Next week, we are finally getting into some 2025 talk. It is going to be... I don't know what it's going to be, actually. I think it's the... let me see. I think it's the... Yeah, I think these are the boom or bust teams that we're going to be talking about. Teams that, whether it's like, okay, it's you're finally going to do what you're supposed to be doing over the years like Miami, or you're going to completely fall off. Or a team like the Chiefs where, not boom or bust, but I think that they're teetering on an edge from being like true Super Bowl contender to being just a playoff team. So we'll have some interesting conversations about that next week. I am just going to confirm that that's what I'm doing. Oh, it's not. I'm doing breakout players next week. That's a lot easier to talk about. So we're going to talk about some guys, usually just second, third year players, guys who I think that are going to have bigger seasons. Again, we all know what breakout players. I don't need to explain what a breakout player is, but that's going to be next week's episode. So, yeah, I'm going to end it here. As always, if you have liked this, please like, share, retweet, subscribe, tell your friends, all that fun stuff, and until next time, peace.